In the Barbarians, there's a couple honorable mentions. One is Pikachu, Soulbound Boyer. Obviously, she was designed to be like Pikachu.
It's just you, me, and the odds. We stuck together, we two peas in a pod. You dealt a bad hand, I'm there seizing the cards. We'll never be separated till we see in the gods.
Welcome to another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today I decided to do something fun. I just wanted to go through every faction and let you know who my favorite champion is. And by that specifically, who I like to use, or at some point like to use a lot. So I'll just go through each faction, pick out my favorite, and tell you about them. And, you know, hopefully this will just be kind of a fun video to watch. And who knows, you might have one of these sitting in your vault and you never thought to use them, and maybe that'll help you out. So in Bannerlords, it's Cillian the Lucky. Just kidding. He's terrible. I think he's usable, and I have used him in Faction Wars, but no, I'm definitely not picking him. Richtof is pretty great, but I don't think he's my favorite. The one that is my favorite is Stag Knight, and we all got him during the Battle Pass back in the day, the thing that's never come back since, but he's amazing. First, he looks really cool. I love this white armor. I wish they used it a little more often. His cape's really cool, and this shield is just completely badass. But I love the, you know, the antlers on his helmet as well. So Stag Knight is amazing, and why? This is the main reason. You place a 50% increase accuracy buff on an ally for 1 turn each time that the ally has something resisted. So when is he going to use it? He's going to use it when it's needed, right? He's going to use it when a champion doesn't land what they're trying to land. So maybe that is because their accuracy is a little lower. The best champions to pair with him are champions that have some form of debuff on every single one of their moves. That way, no matter what move they use, they have a chance of triggering this. And then what you also do is use the mastery that expands that, so it'll actually go on for 2 turns sometimes. That way, sometimes they can even get back around to that ability that didn't land. So we also have the decrease defense and decrease attack. This is incredible. It only lasts 2 turns, but again, do the support tree so you can extend that. And then the other great part is the slow. The reason I love him so much, I put him in so many teams, especially in the past. Like, I run a lot of solo content now. Almost all of the dungeons, you know, I have somebody soloing it, like Tomb Lord or Crypt King or somebody like that. But, you know, when I was coming up in the game, what do you need on every team pretty much? You need decrease attack, you need decrease defense, and when you get to the boss specifically, you need slow. You don't want the boss getting as many turns, and when you have the slow on there, you don't have to build the rest of your team as fast. So Stag Knight is just completely an OP champion, and the fact that he is an epic, you know, makes it even better. High Elves is really hard to decide. We have Arbiter and we have Royal Guard. So although I could pick Royal Guard, his entire kit is amazing, but especially his AoE max damage or max enemy HP move is, you know, second to none. Had they not nerfed it with the level 21 to 25 dungeons and also on things like the Hydra boss and things like that, he would absolutely come out ahead of Arbiter. He's still OP in all of those areas, and he's still amazing, but Arbiter, it's really hard to beat her. Everybody gets her. She's got one of the highest speed auras in the entire game. She has a, you know, a revive where she revives all of her allies. She's not the only person to have an AoE revive, but she's one of the best ones because it also comes with extra turn meter. And because of that, oh, and also you get to take another turn when she does it. So because of that, you can usually come right back into the increased attack and more turn meter. So now your other champions are going to get to go first instead of being like, sure, I revived them, but now they're just going to get picked off one at a time. She can also strip the buffs from the other team, and she can place weaken. So if you do build her with accuracy, I know a lot of people don't, but if you do build her with accuracy, she can put in work in that way too. This speed aura, though, is really important. in arena, especially the earlier on you are, getting to go first is very, very important. Again, feel free to roast me in the comments for not picking Royal Guard, but it's hard to argue with Arbiter. Next is the Sacred Order. This one is almost impossible to decide. I think I have to give it to Cardiel. Honorable mentions are definitely Armiger, and also we can skip past the rares, but also Godseeker Aniri is really great. Cardinal and Deacon are amazing. There's some other good ones in there, and of course, Glycia is really great. Astralon, Sir Nick is one of the coolest champions in the game, but Cardiel, man, he's the man. First of all, is he the coolest looking champion in the game? You could argue that he is. I'm not going to say he for sure is, but I think he's my favorite looking champ in this game. Him and Glycia are right up there for that, but he's just so badass. I would love, if I had a ton of money to spend, do like a cosplay of this guy. I think that would be just amazing. But why is he so great? Again, increase ally speed in all battles by 19%. So you can use him not just in arena like Arbiter for that, but you can put him in the front of any team and he's going to be raising everybody's speeds. Then he's got a passive. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but allies receive 20% less damage from some of the factions. So right there, 20% less is a lot. And then he's got this move, Heavenly Host. Places a 30% increased crit rate. So right there, that's amazing. If any champions that you don't build with crit rate are more likely to crit now. And then the ones that you couldn't build fully with crit rate, same thing. And then also 30% increased crit damage. So even if you have built your other champions with full crit rate, he's giving them a bunch of extra crit damage before he sends them in to do an ally attack. And in this case, he joins the attack as well, and sends the whole team in there to attack with him. So that's incredible. And then if an enemy is killed from this attack, it actually reduces the cooldown as well. So it goes from 4 turns down to 3 turns. So that's pretty amazing. And then he removes all debuffs from all allies. So he's got a cleanse. Cleanse is huge in this game and in a lot of content. There are Doom Tower bosses. There's regular dungeon bosses. There's there's waves. There's just all sorts of times where cleansing your debuffs is just huge. So he does that, and then he also puts block debuffs on. So in arena, you can have him go first. This is what I do when I'm fighting Tormund teams. I usually use him, especially in tag team arena. I'll use his team for the Tormund teams when I'm on offense, and I have him go first, place the block debuffs on, place Revive on Death on, so I've got a couple free turns. The Revive on Death cannot be removed, and that is amazing. And unlike some champions, it doesn't go on for 1 turn, it goes on for 2 turns. So you're protecting your team from dying right off the bat as well. Then he's got the chance to place True Fear. What's cool about this move is when his passive comes into effect, he joins in attacks. And when he does, he uses that A1. So he's got a chance of putting True Fear on people kind of throughout the round before it gets back to him. So you don't have to use his A1 and give up one of his other moves to try to, put True Fear on somebody. So Cardiel, from both his aesthetics, his looks, to his moves, is just absolutely insane. In the Barbarians, there's a couple honorable mentions. One is Pikachu, Soulbound Boyar. Obviously, she was designed to be like Pikachu. So that's really fun. But also she has, these moves where she gets an additional 25% chance of inflicting a critical hit. And if you go up into the legendary category, Syl of the Drakes is really hard to beat. I do have a champion I'm putting ahead of her, but they give her to you and she's incredible. She locks people out, she revives, she puts slow down, she reduces turn meter, she does so much work. She's incredible. Valkyrie, also incredible. And then Rorik is actually a fun champion to pair with Valkyrie. His counterattack is always with, instead of his A1, the one that ignores defense. So you can one-shot people on a counterattack. It's pretty cool. The champion I'm going to go with, though, is Farrakhan the Fat. I did a video on him on why he's the easiest champion to build in a 2-for-1 Bat Eater team with Unkillable. The reason he's able to get the rest of your champions up to a higher level of damage and also contribute so much on his own. I would definitely check out that video if you have him, and if you're struggling to get to a 1 key on with the Bat Eater comp, he can get you there more easily. If you've got all the gear in the world and you're going to be able to put all your champions at 100% crit rate, no problem, and still boost up their attack and still boost up all those other things plenty. Or if you have Dracomorph, then yeah, you probably don't need Farrakhan. But if you need that help, he's there. He's still my champion for the Bat Eater. I do the 1 key easily with him. And when you get down to Brutal, he's doing about 100 million. So he's incredible. And why? Why is he incredible? In all content, other than, the Unkillable Clan Boss teams, he deflects 20% of his incoming damage onto the rest of his allies. That sounds bad. You're adding damage to the other allies, but when you deflect the damage like that, it's not 20% hitting each of them. If it's a 5-person team, it's like 5% hitting each of them. So it's spread out. I would much rather have damage be spread out among my champions than to have it all hit one target. So that helps him stay alive. I'll go to his A1, kind of work my way up. His A1, which comes into great effect in the Bat Eater comp, is decreased defense. So the cool thing about it being on his A1 is the fact that if all of his other skills are locked out, he's still putting that decreased defense on people. And specifically, you don't need AoE decreased defense for something like the Clan Boss. So he's going to hit with that, put that decreased defense on. It's only at 40% chance, but it books up to 50% chance. And then you can use masteries to even raise that higher. Although I prioritize something else over that, but that is still an option. Then he's got this amazing skill. Attacks one enemy, has a 75% chance of HP burn for 2 turns, and then also 2 5% poisons. So he puts a burn on there and 2 5% poisons, which are the big boy poisons. That's again incredible for Clan Boss. It's great in other content as well. So he's one of those guys that can kind of run through and really help get that kind of like damage that lowers everybody enough for your big nuker to go in and take care of business. Then lastly, but definitely not least, just like Cardiel, he puts 30% increased crit rate on again. He puts 30% increased crit damage. And then other than him, so you have to actually run him at 100% crit rate if you want him critting all the time. But other than him, he sends everybody else in to attack. So he's a step down from Cardiel in that way, but he has so much in his kit. So what makes this great in Clan Boss, if you're running a 2-for-1 team, so you're getting 2 turns every time the Clan Boss gets a turn, he's going to be putting this increased crit rate and increased crit damage up and keep it on your team pretty much the whole time. So you don't have to run them at 100% crit rate. Somewhere between 70 and 80% is ideal. And because of that, you can build up all the other stuff. You can give the other champions more attack. You can give them more speed to help hit those speeds that you need to hit. You can get them into other sets. Okay, in Ogryn Tribes, it's really hard to not choose Maneater. He is the reason you can run those 2-for-1 comps, the unkillable comps on Clan Boss. And Clan Boss, of course, is the best rewards in the game. So it's really hard not to pick him. The other one is Bellower. He was my campaign farmer for a long time, but I think I have to give it to Big Un. He's my current campaign farmer. He is also, he has this decreased speed on an AoE. Granted, it doesn't land on everybody every time, but he's got a 50% chance of doing it, and it's on an AoE, so it lands quite a bit. He's got a stun and a decreased attack. Again, it's not at 100% chance, but this one's at about a 75% chance for the decreased accuracy. and it looks like it's a 45% chance for the stun. So you can get that up to 50% if you want to in his masteries. And then he's got a very hard-hitting A1 that hits one enemy, and then as long as that he doesn't weak hit on that enemy, he then hits everybody else as well. So it does have to be critical. That's why I say he can't weak hit. So you don't necessarily want to run him against red affinity, but as long as he's attacking any other affinity, he lands all these things. And then where is he great? He's great in campaign. He can be your campaign farmer at like 7 seconds. So not the fastest in the game, but it's still really, really fast. He is great in your dungeon waves. He's great against the bosses because he puts that slow out there. He puts that decreased accuracy out there. He's also great in Doom Tower because, you know, you're trying to run through those waves. He can be really good at that. But he really shines in Hydra. I had a team that did, I think it was 67 million, and he did 25 million of that by himself. So he was putting slow on the heads. He was putting decreased accuracy on the heads. He can't land that stun, of course. And then he was also, with that A1, always getting, you know, always getting the AoE hits out there as long as I didn't target a head that was red, which I just never did with him. So he's just putting damage out like crazy. Because of that, I put him in War Master instead of the traditional like nuker things like Helm Smasher and stuff. I think if you're doing PvE, it's just better to use War Master, especially if he's going up against bosses. So the fact that he's in so many of my teams, I think is great. Plus, he's Big Un and the Telarius Squad. If you remember that rapper, Big Pun, one of my favorite rappers of all time, they clearly ripped his name off from that. So yeah, that's Big Un. Definitely one of my favorite champions in the game. So Lizardmen is kind of a joke. They need better champions, or at least the ones that I've gotten haven't been great. They're all kind of okay, and none of them seem to be like over the top great. I just pulled Draco. I might just pick him, even though I haven't built him yet. He's incredible, but I think I have to go with Rosin Scarhide. Rosin is somebody that you fuse in the game, so you can get yourself multiple copies if you pull him. You can then go in and fuse him as well. So it's easier to get him to like a +4 if that's something you were interested in. But what does he have going for him? He's got resist in all battles by 90. Or no, in arena battles by 90. So if you're building a resist team, that's actually a really strong aura. He's defense based, which is always a good thing. He attacks all enemies and decreases their turn meter by 100%. And that is on a 6-turn cooldown. So that's really a long cooldown. Probably his biggest, downside. But for somebody that you get for free, that's pretty good. And he hits hard too. So he's defense based and he hits hard. That's always a good thing. But usually you'd go in there, you'd knock back everybody's turn meter, and gives you a chance to, maybe down one of the enemies or maybe get another attack in. He also has attack one enemy and put decreased defense and weaken down. Because of this, he can actually be run in like unkillable clan boss teams and other teams like that. He can have a place in those. He's not ideal, but he does do the job of defense down and weaken. So, and then also he attacks one enemy 3 times and can remove a buff from that target. That can be really handy in things like the Doom Tower and in other content where, people are putting reflect damage up or block damage or something like that. And if you've got him in there, you don't have to wait for those to expire. He'll actually go and start stripping them away. But just to show Draco, everybody knows he's amazing. I'm sure once I've built him, he'll be my favorite. So Skinwalkers is really tough. There's a lot of very good champions that are not like crazy OP. So it's hard to have like one really stand out. I never really built Brackus. I think I used him in Faction Wars. War Chief is very underrated. He puts he puts taunt out on every single move. Now they're all single target, but for instance, when you're fighting the Magma Dragon, he's actually the best champion for taunting. He also reflects damage back to the attacker, so that can be strong as well. Hawkhorn, I just pulled. I haven't built him, but I know he's very good in Arena. I think I've got to give it... It's between Basher and Flesh Tear. I'm not going to pick Mini Warlord, which is Basher. He's very good. I use him in a lot of secret rooms. But I think I'm going to do Flesh Tear. Back in the day when everybody said, just feed him, get rid of him, nobody thought he was good. I was using him in Clan Boss for my 2 key on Ultimate Nightmare. And what he does so well comes in these 2 moves here. So the first one is attacks all enemies and decreases the duration of all enemy buffs by 1 turn. So he's taking their buffs and reducing them, and then it's also increased the duration of all enemy debuffs by 1 turn. So he's increasing those. So if you're putting poisons down, and you're putting defense down and attack down, he's able to keep them on there more consistently. So and he's able to up that. So increasing the poisons just means more damage. Increasing the decreased defense on there means you don't have to land it as often. And also increasing attack down is huge. You need to be keeping attack down on the clan boss at all times unless you're running an unkillable team. So it's really hard to do that. I ran it with Alton back in the day, and he has it on his A1, but at like a 30% chance or something like that. So even though he was doing that, sometimes it would fall off. So Flesh Tear helped keep that on at all times. And then his other one is heals all allies by 30% of their max HP and increases the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn. Because of this, I was able to use Duchess and keep her block debuffs on at all times and keep that attack up on as well more often in the Veil. So he was able to keep Duchess's skills on at all time, so that I didn't have to worry about the stun landing from the clan boss. I didn't have to worry about the slow landing on us and throwing our speed tune off. So he was just huge for me in my mid-game clan boss teams before I got to unkillable. And now I've used him with great success on at least one of the rotations of Hydra. He's, again, increasing all of our buffs. He's increasing the debuffs on the other team, and he's decreasing their buffs. I mean, he's literally hitting them from all angles. He's just incredible. So he's great against the Hydra. And then there's his A1. That one's really not worth talking about. He'll transfer a debuff from himself to the target. It's not a very strong A1. And then, yeah, his aura, it's good for faction crypts, but that's about it. So in the Orcs faction, Ultimate Gaelic was the only reason I was able to farm Spider, which was huge for the longest time. Now we've got a lot of HP burners, out there, and chances are you have one that's better than him. But for a long time, he was one of my favorite champions because I just couldn't do Spider without him. Zargala was, I think, my first epic, or one of them, which was pretty huge. I never ended up building War Maiden because of her. She puts that decreased defense down, and that's just incredible. She also hits hard. I wish I had Seer. If I had Seer, she would be my favorite. But no, I'm level 100. I have Sifi, I have Warlord, I have Cardiel, I have Yakarl. I still don't have Seer. Like, how do you not have an epic when you have all of those other champions? They're obviously really hard to get when they're void. I think I have to pick Warlord, though. He is an absolute monster in every part of this game. You see him used all the time in Arena. If Arena's your thing, that's where you should put him, and you should build him for Arena. But if you choose to build him for PvE, like I have, I still use him in Arena, but I don't worry about like making him the fastest champion on my team or anything like that. Or, and I build him with really high accuracy, but, it has to be high enough specifically for PvE content and not necessarily for, for PvP. So I love this guy though. He attacks all enemies and has a 100% chance of putting the target's skills on cooldown. So in Doom Tower waves, almost all of my runs in the waves on hard Doom Tower, I just have him go first, and then I make sure I get back to that ability before the next wave, and then I, A1 again at the end of the second wave to make sure he's got it going for the third wave. And if it's a level that's tough to beat, that's how I do it. If it's not, I just put it on auto. But he just right away says, nope, you're just using your A1s. And if you build them fast enough, he just, keeps them at that, and that's all they get to use. Revivers are no longer revivers. People who have AoE nukes on their A3, they're no longer nuking. He's just incredible. Then, if that wasn't enough, he puts block debuffs on the whole team, and he puts a big shield on the whole team as well. That's because it's based on his max hit points. So you build him fast, and you build him with a lot of health, and you build him with a lot of accuracy. And then, if that isn't enough, he also has a pretty low chance. It's like I think it's a 40% chance of increasing the duration. Now, Demon Spawn, man, this is a loaded team, or loaded faction. Magnar, I mean, he was my arena farmer for the longest time. He's just incredible. Akoth is a great AoE burner for Spider. Allure is, she's the queen of turn meter. She's the queen of Fire Knight. She's the queen of the Dark Fae. She's the queen of so many spots in this game. Gosh, I might have to pick her. Kertraxa, best, single target nuker in the game probably, other than maybe Rhodos. They're kind of intertwined with each other. She doesn't stay alive very easily other than her auto revive. I mean, you've got everybody. Countess Lix. So I have to pick between Duchess and Kymar. That's really, really tough. Kymar sleeps people, and then on the next turn, he resets your cooldowns. It's really hard to beat that. If I had Seer, I think I would put him as number one. But I think I have to pick Duchess. I've had Duchess for a really long time. I was very lucky. I now have 2 Duchesses, so, don't get too mad at me for that if you don't have her. But what does she do? She, again, has 19% speed in all battles. That's incredible. So you can run her at the lead of everything. She's got this passive where she decreases the damage taken by all allies from AoE attacks by 25%, 15% from bosses. So if she's in your clan boss team, she's automatically reducing every single one of his hits except for the single target smack that he does with the stun by 15%. If she's on your arena team, 25% she's taking off of the Magnar hits. 25% she's taking off of the Trunda hits, all that stuff. So she's one of the few champion revivers that can actually survive attacks from Trunda. She's got an AoE revive, if that wasn't enough already. And then when she does, she puts Veil on all the other champions, so only AoE attacks can hit them. She also puts a continuous heal on them for 2 turns. So because of that, they get, their health back, and they get a chance probably to at least take a turn. So that's really incredible. She also puts block debuffs on, increase attack, and perfect veil on everybody except for herself with her A2. So that's a great way to start out a battle with block debuffs on, so the enemy team can't attack you and put debuffs on you. Increase attack, so now you're doing more damage against the other team, and perfect veil, so she's the only one who can get attacked. What now makes her, and the reason I put her ahead of Kymar, what now makes her incredibly extra insane is Stone Skin. If you put Stone Skin on her, she puts perfect veil on everybody else. So single target attackers like Rhodos, the best arena attacker in the game, at least the best single target arena attacker in the game. Obviously Trunda's the best, but yeah, he's just hitting a brick wall. He's just hitting Stone Skin because he can't target the other champions. So put her in Stone Skin and run teams against Rotos. And for 2 of her turns, Rotos can do nothing. No matter how many extra turns he takes, no matter what he's doing, he's literally just like hitting a brick wall with a sword. And then don't underestimate her A1. She attacks 2 times, so that, is an extra chance to hit War Master proc. But then she places a shield buff equal to 10% of her max hit points on herself and an ally, the one that has the lowest hit points, so it's the one who needs it the most. And I can't tell you how many times this saved my butt, putting a shield on herself and on the ally with the lowest HP. But on top of that, you can run 2-man teams against the Scarab. Depending on the speeds you pick and everything, you may have to manual it. If both champions can stay alive the whole time, then you can run it on auto. What you don't want is for the Scarab boss to steal her continuous heal that she puts on the revive. So what I've done is run her with Nethril, and she's just constantly keeping a shield on herself and a shield on Nethril. What you have to make sure is that he's just barely slower than she is, so that she puts the shield on them and then he attacks. What you don't want is for him to lap her at any time or move a little faster than her, that sort of thing. So as long as he moves just slower than her, you're going to be just fine on that. So yeah, a 2-man team can absolutely take care of the Scarab as long as you have Duchess Lilitu. And the fact that I got Duchess so early in the game, it was after I got Arbiter, but it was still like early enough where she was just, she was putting in work. She was putting in work in Clan Boss. She was, speeding up my runs in dungeons because I didn't have to worry about people dying as often. And then when they did die, she was reviving them. So she's just huge. I think she was in like every team I had in the game at one point, along, across the board, everywhere from Fire Knight to Dragon to the Potion Keeps to everything. So she's just incredible. So Undead Hordes is another really, really hard one to pick. When I pulled Sifi, it was like, pulling gold. It was unbelievable. Eurast I used to solo the Scarab King. Nethril was one of my first legendary champions. I might have to pick him. Mashaled I got much later. He's amazing. But when I got him, I didn't need him as much as I would have earlier in the game. But he's still like one of the best Hydra champs. He's amazing. Rotos I had in pretty much every team for a very long time. And now I use Crypt King Gaul to solo the Spider so that I can run food when I run Spider 20. I think I'm going to have to give it to Rotos, even though Sifi is the best champion here. I have 2 Rotos now, and I run Sifi, 2 Rotos, and Kymar in my arena team. Rotos carried me through this game for so long, and how did he do that? This passive is insane. He will decrease damage from enemy hits. From a single hit will not exceed 50% of his max HP. So no matter who hits him and how hard they hit him, he won't go below 50%. If he's got full health at the time. And it grants an extra turn if this damage reduction occurs. So as long as he survives, he gets a turn right away. It's like a cut-in move. It's great. And then if he is with Sifi, then it decreases the damage taken by bosses by 30%, which is also insane. But even without her, it decreases damage taken by bosses by 15%. So they just can't hit him as hard, which is pretty amazing. What's great about this cut-in ability, though, is that you just don't have to worry about being one-shotted unless it's somebody who hits twice. So the best counter for Rotos is somebody like a Trunda, Magnar, things like that, except Magnar's weak to him. So quite often he survives, but if Magnar doesn't weak hit on either one of those hits, then Magnar can take him out. He also has ignore 60% of defense, which is a huge amount. You can increase that a lot using Savage and Cruel sets. And he also has a way to block revive. It takes a little bit of work to get there, He has to use his A2 a couple times before he can actually do that. But let's look at the A2. On the A2, he attacks one enemy and decreases their max hit points by 20%. Then adds that HP to this champion. So when he hits them, if they get healed, they don't get as much back. And then also he's taking that the hit points and putting them on himself. So he can end up with massive amounts of hit points. It cannot decrease a single champion's max hit points by more than 60%. If you've got them down to 40%, that's going to make it pretty easy. Like every one of his hits are pretty much going to take that champion out in one hit. And you cannot increase this champion's hit points by more than 60,000. Still, if you build him with any hit points at all, he can get himself up to over 100,000 hit points. So he can end up being very tanky at that point. And his attacks are both based on attack and HP. Less HP than attack, so you want to focus on the attack. But when he increases that, he's actually increasing his damage. So every time he uses that skill, he increases the damage on his other skills as well. And then his A1, if you build it with some accuracy, can put decreased defense on, which can be huge because he can be in the arena kind of like solo fighting when the rest of your team is dead and ends up winning the fight sometimes. So by being able to put the decreased defense on makes it more likely that he's going to, when he gets that next turn, knock out and take out the other champion. So Rhodos, again, he carried me through. I think he was on every one of my teams for a while. He's just an incredible champion. And unless he's running against Red Affinity, he's like the best attack champion in the game. Dark Elves has some insane champions. We've got Lydia. We have Ruel the Hamster. He is a very underrated champion, I think. I think Hex is going to come into its own pretty soon here. And then if you go down to the epics, really nobody is better than Madame Saris. She's my pick, and it's really hard to beat what she's got going on. Specifically, this move. You remove all of the buffs from your enemies, and then you place decreased defense on them and decrease attack. So in the arena and also in dungeons, how do you beat that? They want to make themselves stronger. You say, nope, taking that away. Then you say, and you know what? I'm also going to slap decreased defense on you, so I'm going to hit you harder. And if you want to attack me, you can't hit me nearly as hard. It's just really hard to beat that move. It's the best arena move in the game after probably Warlords. It's just, just insane. All right, Knights Rev is a really cool faction. You've got Thea, who they just buffed. I really want to, put some time and effort into her and Ruel the Hamster, put them together, and possibly another Hex champion, and see what I can do. I haven't had the time to do that. Doom Priest is really hard to argue against. She's incredible, cleansing your team on every single turn. Sinesha and Skullcrown together are so cool. Miscreated Monster carried me through Spider. He was the guy to get for Spider for the longest time. I still use him in my Spider team. Well, I guess technically I don't, since I have a solo team for that now, but right up until I started soloing with Crypt King, I was using him. Tomb Lord is my pick. He might be my favorite. He might be my favorite champion in the game right now. Obviously, his design aesthetic isn't the best. They went with this solid bronze or solid gold. There's actually another champion that looks just like him, but way cooler. Acolyte. Where is he? Yep, here he is. Acolyte. They gave him some color. They gave him this purple cape. They gave him this white on the gold. I don't know. He looks cooler to me than Tomb Lord. But Tomb Lord still looks cool. He's still good. And, let's take a look at his moves real quick, and then I'll tell you why he's my favorite champion. So increase ally accuracy in Doom Tower. So that can be huge in Doom Tower if you need that to get you over the hump against a boss or something like that. he's got this decrease the turn meter of all enemies with less than 50% hit points by 100%. Has an 80% chance, which, books up again to 100% of decrease attack. He's got for 2 turns. And also, again, decrease defense for 2 turns as well. So he's putting decrease attack, decrease defense, and he's also going to grant an extra turn if an enemy's turn meter is decreased by this skill. So if he decreases their turn meter, he goes again. And he pretty much is going to, because you're going up against, a group of people until you get them down to like one person you're attacking. You're probably going to be getting that decrease, with the exception of maybe like that first move. If he's using this as his opener, then it might not happen. Then he's got attacks one enemy and has a 100% chance of placing 2 5% poison debuffs on all enemies for 2 turns. If it's critical, he has, again, a 100% chance of placing 4 poisons on the enemy for 2 turns. Once in a while, because so many are being put out there, you notice only like 3 of them land, and that's that 3% chance that every debuff has of not landing. So basically, it's guaranteed to put poisons out there. Sometimes, as long as you're critical, it's going to put even more poisons out there. And then on top of that, he's got a 3-time attack. So you can use this on like Fire Knight. He puts decreased speed out there. That's incredible. Again, great for Fire Knight. And again, you need it to be critical, but he's getting 3 chances to do it. So even if you're running him at less than 100% crit rate, the odds that he's going to land it, as long as it's not like too low of a chance to crit, is pretty incredible. So he's going to almost always land that decreased speed whenever he's attacking somebody. So he's amazing in Hydra, decreased defense, decreased attack, and helps you slow the enemy. He's amazing against all bosses, because, he lowers their damage they're doing to you, increases the damage you're doing to them, puts poisons out there. What's not to love about that? And then he's got all that turn meter reduction stuff going on. He was already incredible, and then they buffed him. I was already soloing the dragon with him, and then they buffed him. So that's why he's my favorite champion in the game. He was my first dungeon solo champion. He was the first one I had where I could run food through while I was running literally level 25 dragon. Tomb Lord is incredible, and because of that, I think he's my favorite champion. Now I have Crypt King Ghaul, who I didn't even pick as my favorite, soloing Spider 20. So he's actually up there as well. I just couldn't pick him over Rhodos. But yeah, I think Tomb Lord's probably my favorite. So in the dwarves, there's 3 that are really kind of battle it out for this position. And I know there could be others. I haven't built Herndig. I know he's incredible. Molly was in my arena team in my earlier game for a really long time. People told me she was bad, she was horrible, don't build her. And then I realized, no, she's pretty incredible in arena. She's still the best Valkyrie counter. Under Priest Brogni, he's a Hydra master. I haven't built one of those crazy 200 million point teams for clan boss, because I just don't want a team running for 2 hours. But yeah, he's incredible for that stuff. He's great for getting you through content. I've got teams on Hydra where the damage that happens to your shields, running him with Valkyrie, is a large part of where the damage is coming from. So he's actually really incredible for Hydra. But I think I have to give it to Geomancer. I didn't build him for a really long time. All people were saying at the time was he's really good for clan boss. I was already, one keying Ultimate Nightmare at the time, so I was like, I don't really need to build him. But now that Hydra came, he's just insane. He's got increased ally hit points by 25% in all battles. All battles is what you want for, that kind of aura. And then I'll save his passive for last. He puts decreased accuracy out there on an AoE. Granted, it's only a 40% chance, but on an AoE, which can be great against Hydra, lower their chance to do stuff to you. Mischief, make it harder for him to steal your buffs and stuff like that. He removes all buffs from a target enemy. And the really cool part about this is he doesn't have to hit the enemy to do it. So you can still use this when they have Poison Cloud out there. And then he'll steal all the buffs if they have a burn on them at the time. And then it does some reducing of the cooldowns and things like that as well. And then Quicksand Grasp. This is the money skill. He fully depletes the target's turn meter, which is great. Fills this champion's turn meter by the amount the target loses, which is also great. And then has a 75% chance of placing HP burn, which books up to 100%, and a 25% weaken debuff on the target for 3 turns. 3 is incredible. You use the mastery to extend it. You're putting it out there to 4 turns now. That's just amazing. And then the best part is then this passive, which works along with that burn. It has to be his burn. You can't like use Ignatius to put burn out there and then have this passive take effect. It doesn't work that way. Decreases the damage of all allies received by 15%, and deflects that damage onto each enemy under an HP burn debuff placed by this champion. If there's multiple champions, of course, it'll only work with him, so you can't run multiple Geomancers. And that says whenever this champion is attacked, it deflects 30% of the damage instead. And then, of course, as long as they're under burn, it's hurting them again as well. So, and then whenever he's attacked, it goes up to 30%, and then also adds 3% of the target's max HP, which, for these big bosses is quite a lot. As well. So this move is just a killer move. When you're going against the clan boss, of course, it's huge. When you're going up against Hydra, this is a way that you just put a burn out there, and then the damage they're doing to you is hurting them. And, that's just the coolest thing. Like, you can't physically have a better way of dealing damage than having a move where you place HP burn, not hit, so he can't weak hit. You place it on them, and then you also place a weaken on them so that everything hurts them more. And then when they attack you, they hurt themselves. Like, heads are just dropping like crazy on Hydra with him. So Geomancer is my favorite dwarf. He's just amazing. And then lastly, we have Shadowkin. First, I want to point out that maybe the coolest looking champion in the game. Nobody will ever build him, ever, because he's a terrible, terrible champion. I have him. I wish so hard that he was good, but he's just awful. We got our new guy, Kabuto. I have not built him yet. I think I have to. The only one I really use, just because this faction came out so late, I have built Taragi for Faction Wars. I've built Yoshi for Faction Wars. I've built Ninja, and Ninja's pretty awesome. But not everybody gets him, not everybody can have him. So I don't think I'm going to pick him. If you're starting the game now, you'll never get Ninja, and that's just a shame. But Genbo the Dishonored, I think he's my favorite because he has a very unique kit. Once again, we have increase ally speed in arena battles, so that's already good. He's got this passive that makes him immune to decrease attack debuffs, which means nothing they do can make it so that he will hit less hard. And then he will ignore the unkillable buffs when attacking under increase attack. So as long as he gets increased attack on himself, he's going to be ignoring unkillable buffs. So what does that mean? That means Swift Parry is no longer a problem. So he's great at fighting against champions that have Swift Parry on. Before he does any of his moves, the first move he's going to use is Sword Trance. He places an increased crit rate buff and an increased crit damage buff. So again, very similar to what Cardiel does and Farrakhan the Fat. So you're kind of seeing a theme of something that I like. So what you can do with him, and what you should do with him, is build him at 70% crit rate. That way you can really build up his crit damage, which he's getting a 30% increase on. you can really build up his attack. So what you're going to do with him is you're going to build him with 70%-ish crit rate, and you're going to boost his crit damage up. You're going to boost his attack up, and even his speed if you need it. Makes him much easier to build him into like a really strong nuker. The only negative is he doesn't have a double hit on his AoE attack. If he did, he'd be like the top arena nuker in the game, I think. So what he's done, he does this and he grants himself an extra turn. So then he moves straight into his next move, which is attacks all enemies, has a 100% chance of decreasing the duration of all buffs by 1 turn, and this procs on Swift Parry. This effect cannot be resisted on critical hits. So you build him to where he has that 70% crit damage, or sorry. So what you do, you build him where he has that 70% crit rate. That previous move brings it up to 100%. Now he automatically crits, which means he automatically ignores those buffs. So what are you going to do? You're going to build him with that 70% crit rate. He's going to boost it up to 100%. Then he's going to come in with this automatically, crit hit. And then it's going to automatically reduce the buffs the enemy team has by 1 turn. I'm not 100% sure whether it is the passive or this move that ignores the Swift Parry, but you don't have to worry about Swift Parry with him as long as you're actually bringing him down fully to, to 0 health. You're going to kill them. So he's great that way. And then this twin soul swords hits really, really hard, and it's a double hit. So it's a single target, but you're hitting really hard and you're hitting over and over again. And this one is each hit steals increased attack buffs from the enemy, so they no longer have the increased attack, and then it helps him because he needs increased attack, right? And the buff steal cannot be resisted, so it's automatically going to happen. So no offense to Ninja, I'm picking Genbo, the Dishonored. However, Ninja is, again, an incredible champion as well, so I would not blame you if you felt Ninja was the better one. Who do you think I should have been choosing? You can't just go by which ones were highlighted, I guess, as me owning them, because I haven't had a chance to build all of them yet. I really didn't want to choose any champions that I haven't built and used myself. Again, I probably could just say, yeah, Draco for that one, but I haven't built them, so I didn't want to do that. And then, so please let me know in the comments, what do you think? Do you think any of the champions I talked about are overrated? Do you feel like any of them that I overlooked are underrated? And then what champions do you like the most in these factions? I'd love if you put them in the comments and I could look through them. They don't have to be the champions that I have, but yeah, other people might, get some ideas from that as well. So I think that would be really cool. And then, if this was the type of content that you like, please subscribe to my channel and comment and like, so that I know that you liked it, and then I'll make more content like this. So thank you very much. I'm the Clam Boss, and this is another Raid Shadow Legends video.
It's just you, me, and the odds. We stuck together, we 2 peas in a pod. You dealt a bad hand, I'm there seizing the cards. We'll never be separated till we see in the gods. We've been low together, high forever. Long as we go together, we'll die whenever. Be a light, couldn't let the darkness try you ever. Truth in my word, you I lie to never.